Hey everybody, and welcome back to another video. Do your photos look like everyone else's, whereas you'd like for them to stand out in the crowd? In this video, I'm going to point out the one single problem that most people are doing which causes this very result. And I'm going to give you 5 simple to implement tips to get around this problem. When you're done watching this video, you'll have 5 great tips to use to come home with more unique photos than ever the very next time you go out. Don't miss out for my bonus tip, which allowed me to get photos like this and this. My name is Simon d'Entremont, and I'm a professional nature and wildlife photographer living in Eastern Canada. I make weekly videos giving you photo tips or taking you behind the scenes for nature and wildlife photography. Subscribe if you want to see more. So what's the number one problem that people, including myself, make when taking photos which makes them boring? It's shooting photos at eye level, that is shooting from 5 or 6 feet off the ground from the same perspective and angle from which everyone would see the scene when coming upon it. What I mean by this is you arrive at a scene or see something happening you want to capture, and without moving, you raise your camera to the eye and take a photo. Now, while this can indeed sometimes take a beautiful picture, you've just taken the exact same photo that any one of thousands of people standing at the same spot would have taken. Raising our cameras to the eye and taking a picture is the least effort photo we can take. And I should know, having done this many times and thinking after the fact, darn, why didn't I do this instead? The first step is the obvious one, getting out of eye level. That means going up or going down. Getting down is a great perspective for a more interesting photo for a couple of reasons. One, if you're using a shallow depth of field, like I do in wildlife photography, it makes what's behind the subject farther in the background, making it more blurry and accentuating the effect of a subject that's sharp against a soft background. These photos show off this effect, for which getting low made a huge difference. Compare that to this angle, for example. It makes a totally different photo. Secondly, getting low gets you closer to any foreground object, exaggerating its size in the photo and adding an interesting foreground element to what might be an interesting scene, but lacking something if just shooting what's in the distance. Like in these photos, getting closer to the ground made these foreground elements larger in the frame and part of the photo, even if in real life they were much smaller than it appears in the photo. Getting high up or getting some elevation also achieves a unique perspective. Flat landscapes can look really plain when there's nothing to show the difference between near and far. Getting some elevation allows you to have a foreground, middle ground, and background all in one scene, like adding layers. Like in these shots, where the elevation allowed me to visualize a scene in a unique way and present it differently than your usual snapshot. My second tip is to use the landscape and other elements in your scene to put a frame around or out of focus elements to your foreground or surrounding environment. This gives a sense of your photo being more three-dimensional and having depth. If there's something in the foreground you can place in front of your subject, it adds a nice touch to your pic. Or if you can frame your subject with branches or other structures around your subject, the natural framing effect will add some depth and environment to your photos. So when you get to a scene, rather than just photographing the scene itself, look around for some framing opportunities. Branches, buildings, trees, anything to add that extra dimension and interest. Or look for anything that you can place out of focus in the foreground, adding a bit of a 3D effect to your photo. My third tip is around giving your photo a sense of place. So what I mean by this is that your photo tells a story of where it was taken, not just a subject, but a subject and a place or a time. It's easiest to give an example to explain why this works. Let's say you're a sports photographer at the Olympics and you're photographing gymnastics and hope to be on the cover of Sports Illustrated. You set yourself up in a great spot to get wonderful photos of gymnasts twirling in the air and getting some amazing shots of wild gymnast moves. Meanwhile, another photographer gets in position 20 feet off to your right, such that the Olympic rings on the wall of the gym are directly behind the gymnast as she twirls in the air. The other photographer will get the cover. Why? Because the other photo has a sense of place that defines where the photo was taken at the Olympics. And Sports Illustrated will want a cover of an Olympics issue with the Olympic rings. So how do you apply this to your daily photography? It's often by having scenes or backgrounds that give hints to location, part of the world, environments, or seasons. Now, this doesn't mean that it's easy to do this every time you go out to get a photo, but the more you try, the more often it will happen. I like to shoot Milky Way photos, which is a pretty cool subject on its own, but by placing it behind a recognizable subject gives a photo a sense of place. Like here, included with a famous Nova Scotia tree in Shubenacadie by the highway, the Skyline Trail in Cape Breton, close to where I live, or the Three Sisters Formation in Chignecto Park near my home here in Nova Scotia. By the way, this sense of place also makes these photos great sellers on my website. Now you may be thinking, yes, but my genre of photography doesn't include locations. Maybe, but maybe not. I shoot lots of wildlife and birds, and you wouldn't think that sense of place can play a factor there, but you'd be mistaken. These two snowy owl photos are both very nice photos and both sell well for me. But the one on the lobster trap sells better for me. Why? Because it has a sense of place. I live next to the ocean, and people here recognize the perch as a washed-up lobster trap on a beach and can see the ocean in the background. That means it was a photo taken locally. It renders the photo more nostalgic and more relevant to where I live. On the other hand, this photo, while a very nice one, could have been taken anywhere, like in the Rockies or in the northern tundra or in the US. It lacks a sense of place. So when you're planning a shoot or looking for subjects, look to see if there are elements like the background that you can add to the photo to reveal its location, season, or other identifiable trait. A cactus for the desert, a lighthouse or water for the ocean or a lake, orange leaves for the fall, snow for winter, sand for the beach, or gloomy clouds for a storm. Include elements that aren't just pretty, but say something about your photo's location, season taken, or conditions. The fourth tip is to not only shoot at the field of view that your eyes see. So what I mean by this is to start shooting at wider angles than your eyesight, or at tighter fields of view than your eyesight, which is somewhere between 35 and 55 millimeters as we measure lens focal lengths. The reason to do this is to get out of the normal view that people are used to seeing. Unique vantage points and view just look great. Normal in this case can translate to boring because it's what people expect to see and will lack interest and ability to captivate your viewer. Shooting wide allows you to add more environment to the photo, including elements that complement your subject. The sky, the land, foliage, perches, and structures. Adding these gives your photo another element of layers and storytelling. Shooting close or with more focal length is another great technique. It gives the added advantage of showing off details that aren't usually visible to the human eye, adding intrigue and giving the viewer a reason to stop, look, and take time to study the details of your photo. I just came back from a photo safari in Botswana. Oh, by the way, I'll try to get a video out on that next week. Subscribe if you don't want to miss that. Photographing elephants was an example where this played out big time. It turns out that photographing elephants is hard. Not that it's hard to get one in the frame. It's just that a shot with an elephant filling the frame looks, well, repetitive. After 25 elephant photos with the same technique of filling the frame with an elephant, you have 25 exact same photos. Boring. The trick to elephant photography is to shoot really wide or really tight. Take photos with dramatic lighting and show the whole environment. Show this amazing large animal in an even larger scene. Sunsets can be a great setup for this. Or show off the details of the elephant with close-ups or long focal lengths. Show just the trunk, or drinking, or eyes, or wrinkled hide. Not only does this spice up your photos, it gives a goal to go out and get even more elephant photos even after you've already taken hundreds. If you're just shooting them at the usual fill the frame field of view, the likelihood of wanting to go out and take more photos won't be there, as you'll likely come home with just the same pics you've already gotten. My fifth tip to take more interesting photos is to go vertical. This is more important than ever in a social media world where content is seen on phones and tablets. That's because these formats favor a vertical orientation in something like 4:5 aspect ratio, and vertical photos fill more of the screen available. Here are two examples of photos to show the extremes. Here's a shot I took, a wide panorama of the Milky Way in the south, all the way to the northern lights to the north on the left. Kind of a cool photo. But when I post this to Facebook or Instagram to be seen on a phone, it's just a small strip of a photo robbing the viewer of the things to see there. On the other hand, if I take a Milky Way photo in vertical orientation, when it's seen on a phone or a tablet, it uses up a much larger part of the screen, allowing the viewer to get a much better look at my photo and all of the work that went into it. The second reason to shoot vertical is that this is what suits the shot the best. If the leading lines are up and down, or your subject is taller than wide, or there are vertical structures in your photo, or the alignment of the foreground, middle ground, and background are best revealed down to up, vertical may be the way to go. Not every photo is best captured in a horizontal format going left to right. For me, birds or mammals and trees going up and down, giraffes with their long, tall shapes, and the Milky Way often look better in a vertical composition. People standing, tall buildings, and flowers may lead you down a similar path. So the next time you look at a photo opportunity, don't be shy about flipping that camera around to see if the shot and the composition dictates it. Your subject may be best served by a better portrait-style composition, and a social media may reward you for a format that works better for it. And I promised you a bonus tip. This is using reflections to your advantage. These add a wonderful style and juxtaposition to a photo and shows that the photo was thought through a little bit, shot with intention. Reflections can come from water in puddles or lakes or the ocean, where having no wind really helps to get a nice clear reflection. That's why when I plan to go out and shooting wildlife, calm winds will nudge me towards going for shorebirds, ducks, or other waterfowl near water so that I can improve my odds of getting reflections in my photo. These look great in landscape shots too, or cityscapes across a harbor. Reflections can also come from windows and make for great portrait and street photos. Pointing up against a building with lots of windows will get you a cloudy sky reflected. Getting lights or sun reflected as part of the reflection also adds a very nice touch. If you liked this video and thought it deserving, give it a like and YouTube will show it to even more people, helping others on their photography journey. I hope you can put these tips to use the very next time you go out to take your own unique, amazing photos. I know you can do it.